Hello, welcome to the Plaid Oracle. This is a collective reading. It is a message from Venus. If you've been with me for a little while, you may know that Venus is very strong, influential in my own life, my own natal chart. I've been getting reacquainted with her in the last several years as I lost touch. And she is currently moving through Capricorn. And I do have an angle in Capricorn, and I have a number of planets in Taurus, which is being trined by Capricorn. Also, Venus is going to meet Pluto at 0 Aquarius on December 7th. So just 3 weeks away, a little less than 3 weeks away. So this is, it's a strong moment for her to come through with this message. Although this message is, it's not attached in any way to this astrological moment exactly. It's just that this moment is really providing a space for this message to come through. So, we begin with the Cantigee Oracle and this card of the unburdened bones. And I'm going to read you the little story that goes with this. It is nearly winter. Despite your long sleep through a protracted night, you are weary, and you struggle to keep your body warm as you walk through a wooded land. A gray sky casts diffuse light through the lace of bare branches above you. All is gently illuminated without shadow. You pause to rest beneath a great tree, but it is not a sweet rest. Your blood chills in your stillness, and you start to shiver. Just then you hear a voice emerge in the quiet. Deep, steady, untroubled, and caring, it says simply, "You're cold because you're trying too hard." Too tired to notice that you are utterly alone and that this voice seemed to emerge miraculously from the great tree, you reply, "But when I stop to rest, I get so cold. What am I to do?" Just as the voice utters, "Abide in your bones." You exhale, and everything but your bones falls and fades, as if your skin and all it contained was carried away with your breath. As you inhale, you feel yourself lifted. Your bones borne on the wind. You are neither warm nor cold. You are neither awake nor asleep. You feel yourself carried not just through space, but also through time. When your mysterious journey ends, your bones land in your flesh, and you land in a sunny field beyond the woods. You land in the vital warmth of spring, beyond the stilling chill of winter. From then and there, you set to walking again, clear in mind, vital in body, attuned and awake. So, the core of yourself, and this trying too hard. We effort a great deal, and we spend a lot of effort on perhaps things that are not so important. I certainly know for myself that I often, think about things that really aren't mine. Really not my circus or my monkeys. But I expend a lot of energy, and and these things that are sometimes difficult, they're problems, they're challenging, they intertwine themselves in my energy, and I'm carrying them around unnecessarily. So the core of us. A related thing, or I guess part of the energy that is allowing for this or making an opening, Saturn has just turned direct in Pisces. And Venus is said to be exalted in Pisces. She's an honored guest there. It is a place that where Venusian ideas and values are exalted. And I think that it's giving Saturn, you know, he spent a long time moving through Capricorn and Aquarius, 5 years. And those are his spaces. And of course he's, you know, very vital there. But I think that it can be burdensome there as well. And now that he has entered this, you know, watery space, even Saturn can relax. I don't believe that Saturn wants our efforting. Not in a slogging, trying, 10 of Wands kind of way. I believe that all the planets want the very best for all of us and everything that is here in the solar system. And that what he is interested in is integrity, in stability, in containment, that we are responsible, that we do take care, but also that we are well, that we are happy, that we are joyful in this. He doesn't want to create a burden. We create that for ourselves. The visible underlying is this: in the tunnels of our ancestors. And this card usually comes out for me, not surprisingly, as something to avoid. We don't want to be trapped in the tunnels of our ancestors. For sure, there is a great deal of wisdom that our ancestors had. I think, you know, especially if you go way, way back, I think early man was much wiser and more capable than we've ever given them credit for. But there's also a lot of stuff that we don't want to keep. There is, right? There's a kind of energy in the universe towards greater expansion, greater complexity. So if we're carrying stuff around, we want to be unburdened, right? The card below that is, you don't know where you are, but you are free. So there may be an anxiety to, right, leaving things behind, to go forth without a map. I was actually just listening to something this morning, and the speaker was saying that people like metrics and they like markers. You know, if you're running a marathon and there's no mile markers, it can make you uncomfortable. You don't know how far you've gone. So there's a discomfort in that. However, I think that that we do have markers. We would know these things internally. Ancient man didn't have maps. He didn't have mile markers. He didn't have clocks or GPS or any of this stuff. But did some really amazing things. We as humans, as natural beings, have way more capacity than we think we do. We've just gotten used to, having all these tools and things coming from the outside. People telling us how we're doing from the outside. Hitting markers that are predetermined for us. And this, right, there's something happening now that is wanting to release us from all of this so that we can create real change and a really new and vibrant life here. The unseen underlying is touching the star-kissed leaf. And in this story, you as the character climb all the way up to the top of the tree to reach the star-kissed leaf. And a lot of this is available to us through Venusian values. And perhaps through Mars as well. And maybe that he's going to come out next. Because these are kind of the primal, right? Venus, Mars, and maybe Mercury too. Perhaps they will all have their individual message in this way, right? The really individual planets. And the sun and the moon. The ways of getting down to what is most important to you, what you really value, what you where you want to put your attention, where you want to put your energy. The first card is quintessence, the ultimate expression of something. What is the quintessence of you? Is there somewhere where you're holding back? Is there somewhere where you've boxed yourself in? Is there somewhere where you're achieving somebody else's mile marker? What is the quintessence of you? Below that, we have abundance. Oh, and then I'm seeing just now the unfolding and the mandorla, which actually I'm going to set that aside and we'll get back to that a little bit later. The underside of the deck has manna, which is, the food from heaven, sustenance from heaven, sustenance that arrives, that is not about effort, but is really about alignment. How have you aligned yourself? What are you aligned with? I mean, not only in a sort of law of attraction vibrational way, but in a real life way. What ideas, what philosophies, what companies, what people, what platforms, what What visions have you aligned yourself with? And do they actually match your true values? We have earth, the tangible. All that we have, all that we see and feel and taste and touch and hear, what we think of as the real world. Though the real world is much larger than that. Also, what are your commitments? You know, there's these peacock feathers in the background of this card, and they make me think of Hera and Juno. These energies of commitment, of standing by something. Juno is moving through Scorpio. Now she formed a T-square with Mars and Pluto, and will, and I think we'll be a little bit square with them still, even though it's not an exact square. Where we commit, where we align ourselves, where our energy goes, becomes tangible. Co-creation. Who are you co-creating with? Does it feel good? Maybe it does. Maybe all of this reading for you is a giant confirmation. I hope that is so. That you're already living this Venusian version of Saturn, or this Venus-kissed Saturn life. But if you're not, if you look around at what you've got and feel kind of, not so much. With whom are you co-creating? And there is sort of this line of dark and light. And this idea of that line, we're going to get back to that again later. And then we have the Taurus, which is energy that continues. It's this donut-shaped object. Sacred geometry, also known in physics, the torus, where energy moves around and around and around, is not lost. And this is accessible when your bones are unburdened, when you are really yourself, when you're upholding your own values, when you're in alignment with your own values, when you are mindful who you choose for co-creation, what ideas, what philosophies, what goals. And then, of course, sensuality. Wouldn't be a Venus reading without that. That this is in no way, right, this idea of the unburdened bones is in no way trying to say that you want to transcend the physical life. Right? In the story, the bones drop back into the body. This is an exploration. really unburdening your bones. Going to that, right? If you can unburden the core of yourself, then the rest can follow more easily. Akashic flow, tapping in, ancient library, awakening. Not so much this idea of that people have of the Akashic record where you can go in and, you know, see your past lives or see your future lives or know what's happening. But just an understanding of the flow, an understanding of this creational space that exists. That's been a theme coming out in many of the readings, that wanting to reach a real full understanding that energy comes first. That if you can shift the energy, change it, create it, amend it, align with it, that what happens in the physical will happen much more easily than through efforting. Below that, we have the dreamy escape. Wanderlust, hidden treasures, sojourn. So this, right, this period of the unburdened bones may be time spent on a daily basis in an imaginal space, or what we think of as humans as an imaginal space, but is in fact just another reality space. Spent in daydream. And maybe done in different ways. Maybe some days it's really directed. You really have a focus, you have a kind of vision, and you expand it in your mind. And then maybe other days you let the daydream go where it wants to go. You allow yourself to be inspired by something you've seen or heard, like a writing prompt, but in a daydream. You could write it down, but I don't know, that feels like too much effort. Right? That this wants to be really free. I think a better idea, if you wanted to make a record of it, or to sort of get it into the more of the left brain half of yourself, include the whole brain, you could speak it. The bottom of the deck is Between Worlds. Twilight Dream, Revelations, Etheric Bridge. That this imaginal space, this creational space, I think is really what I want to call it, is this in-between. We have deep rest, shifting gears, recharge and repair. Energy spent or focus on things that recharge us, that nourish us, that provide rest. It might be more sleep, but it might be more, reading novels, or spend more time cooking your meals, or spend more time with a good friend in conversation, or spend more time going to a museum if if you enjoy that, or to an art supply store, if you're like me and enjoy that. That rest doesn't necessarily mean sleep. You know, because we've spent so much time with these burdened bones, right, it's going to take time. Right, right? It's like rest from the trying, rest from the efforting, rest from the achieving, rest from the holding everything together, rest from control. Then we have visitation. Loved ones, benevolent guides, revelations, relationships, people. You know, it's making me think of this idea of visiting. That it was something that people did, and you know, we haven't done it, I think, in a long time. You know, it's something that you run into in novels about Edwardian and Victorian times. You know, that people were known to be in, right, during these hours if you wanted to visit. And when I was a little girl, I spent some time living in Europe, and, you know, we would go and visit friends, and we always, you know, we often brought something, flowers or chocolates or, you know, some gift. And that's really, right, it's disappeared. People don't do that, right? You have to make appointments, right? We have play dates. The people don't just, you know, drop in on each other. And I feel like that's something, right, to recreate in some way, wherever you are. You know, maybe you let it be known that you're around on Sundays. Please come and visit. Encourage people. Then you are a gift. Visionary, step into your light. Right, we talk a lot in the spiritual sphere about self-worth. And this is another thing that I think we can know intellectually. You know, I can say, yes, I am worthy of love and belonging. I can know that in my head. But to feel it, to catch all those little thoughts that undermine that, the self-judgments that you didn't reach that mile marker that you were supposed to reach, or you haven't done the thing that everybody else has done by the time you're 30, or you whatever it is, all these little ways that we undermine ourselves because we're trying to meet some external criteria, or some, you know, family dictated criteria, or even some, you know, something that you've set on yourself. To know that you are a gift. Just yourself. When you are the quintessence of yourself, you can know this. And it's not in any way about perfection. It's about honesty and clarity and integrity. And then, of course, heart activation. We needed a heart card in a Venus reading, and looking at all the beautiful roses. Self-love, following your bliss, and restoration. Right? That's sort of all of these right? The culmination of this row, right? This heart opening. A willingness to be soft. A willingness to be gentle, a willingness to be wide-eyed. A willingness to see the best, both in people and the most expansive, best outcome that is possible. Putting the cynic away. So then, justice. Libra. Venus is one of Venus's homes, and right below her is the King of Pentacles, associated with Taurus, her other home. Harmony. Things being just, not justice, right? Not like going out and getting justice for someone. But, you know, that it is a just society, that we live in a just way, that, you know, that we use judgment in an expansive way, right? Not that we're judgy or judgmental, but we judge. We judge something to be for us or not for us. We judge something to be in line with our values or not in line with our values. We judge whether we want to co-create with something or someone. And then the bottom of the deck is the Nine of Cups with this open heart. An open heart, again, right, it doesn't mean that you just accept everything. You retain that Saturnian idea of boundaries, of knowing what is for you and what is not. Knowing what sort of society you wish to live in. It's not about accepting everything and making everything right as a human being. You know, from the source perspective, everything that happens is beautiful and part of the unfolding of the universe. But as human beings, we can make judgments. We can say, I accept this or I don't. And when you know what you can accept and what you can't, or don't wish to, when you know what your values are, when you mind your own markers and not external markers, when you cultivate your own vision, then you get beyond impediments. You get lucid. So like you are lucid in the dream. We want to be lucid, to know that it's not, you know, that this is important, right? The tangible, the real life that we're living is important. But this isn't all of it. There is this whole other aspect to reality. And that energy comes first. We are then lucid in the dream. And then the star. What is your star? What's your guiding light? your values, your integrity, your dreams, your desires that come from your heart, not from, needing to meet some external marker. And then the Three of Pentacles, we're back to co-creation. Co-creation with heart, right? We have the moon here between. Co-creation that, right, is in the imaginal, here, standing in this water, but also in the physical. And then we meet the star again. And here, right, you're pouring the water over yourself. And it's like it sort of moves through you. Right? You nurture yourself and then you spread that out beyond. Now, well, maybe I will wait. I'm going to take these 3 cards and put them over here for a minute. The bottom of the deck is the Three of Pentacles reappearing. Works, what works we wish to be associated with. Also, what is our great work? The work of our life. How we wish to express our life. And this card is Mars in Capricorn, and that is where he is exalted. And perhaps we will hear from him next. Then we have the Wheel. Knowing also that there are those things that are beyond your control. That it is co-creation, not just between those that you choose to co-create with, but there is, right, you move outward into the big co-creation. And with the universe. Now we have your failure with the Seven of Pentacles. And this, I want to say, is how are you seeing things? Because the Seven of Pentacles is one of those cards that can be seen in a couple of ways. In the original Waite Smith deck, we have a guy who's leaning on his gardening implement and looking at these 7 pentacles growing on a bush. Now, you could interpret that as boredom or impatience or dissatisfaction with the harvest so far. But you could also think of it as satisfaction. In many decks, it is depicted that way. Knowing that everything is humming along. That you did your part. And now, the seeds are sprouting. The plant is growing. It's doing what it does. That there isn't a need for micromanaging. That now you just get to wait to, maybe you go off and do something else. While this creation comes into being. That it's not about, the over control. So do you see it? Do you see what you have so far as a failure? Or do you see it just as part of the process? And then we have the Knight of Swords. More clarity. He's actually, the knights in this deck sit in the king position. But I think of him here as kind of as a Gemini energy, as this fast moving knight energy. Mutable, the ability to change your mind when new information arrives. Also the ability to speak your mind, the ability to know what is true for you. Clarity. And then the last card is worry. And this, right, there's this pentagram here. And it's arranged kind of how you see it in the Satanic Church with the long point on the bottom. And what came to mind for me is that worry is a spell. Right? So if you worry, it's, right, you're casting a spell. You are co-creating. And just to, right, it's another real understanding of that. Like maybe a bodily understanding of that. That maybe now, when you have a worrying thought, you actually feel like it's discord in your body. That your senses are more fine-tuned and you can feel your whole body, the cells kind of go, ugh. I know, worry. This, right, this sensuality, this openness to feeling things. Right, to feeling the markers. That you don't need the markers outside of you to know where you are. So this final section is usually advice, but I asked for some, or what was offered was a gift. I wanted to call it a blessing in my mind, but that was sort of rejected. Venus is, right, not, right, she doesn't want you to think of it as a blessing. That it's a gift. Somehow, I don't know, that there's some, I mean, maybe it's only in my mind, and so it's for me particularly, but that a blessing has some kind of tiny, tiny string attached to it in some way. I don't know. But it's a gift. It's grace in that way, that where you are, what's happening, it's irrelevant. It is just for you. So we have judgment, which is, the new Aeon. It's the new Aeon in the Thoth deck. It's the trumpet sounding. It's the wake up. And below that is alchemy. This is temperance in this deck. The conversion of anything that was painful or, places that we felt shame, transmuted, transformed. And then the world. A new world. Now the bottom of the deck has these two cards next to each other. The Six of Wands, Victory, and the Ten of Swords, Ruin. And this morning, when I was doing my personal own reading, 3 cards from the Thoth deck came up. The card that I actually drew was this Mandorla card. And it's also known as the Vesica Piscis. You know, some people might think of it as a Venn diagram, right? These two things kind of coming together here in the center, right? This center space. But what came up was not so much this combination. When I asked for a clarification, it wasn't that. What I got was the Emperor sitting between the Star and the Ten of Swords. So the Star and the Ruin. And at the bottom of this deck, we have this Victory and this Ruin next to each other. And what came through very clearly is that we can, right, we can choose, right, these two things are shadows width away from each other. That we can choose, right, that there's always a turning, right? Which way do we turn our face? I also, when I asked for a few more cards just about the unburdened bones, and I got, well, first of all, the underside of the deck is this Four of Swords, right? So this dreaming space. And then the Two of Pentacles, the Two of Swords, and then the Emperor again. And this particularly very relaxed Emperor, right? So the Two of Pentacles, which can be seen as efforting, as juggling, as, you know, in the Waite-Smith deck, there's these ships that seem to be on a storm-tossed sea in the background, having to juggle difficult things. Here, she's struggling with ideas, struggling with choices. Or there's the Emperor, relaxed, in alignment. So the gift, the root of the powers of earth, the Ace of Pentacles. Two of Wands, dominion. And this, you know, this whole thing, right? So the New Earth, this idea of dominion. And then the King and Queen of Pentacles. So this feels like, right, like a new world, like a new Garden of Eden. And often in you know, when quoting the Bible, I think it may say this in the St. James, or in the King James Bible, that Adam and Eve were given dominion over the earth. And that people have interpreted this in the past to mean that they can use whatever they want and trash the place. Right? But dominion, right, the Emperor, in his highest expression, cares deeply for everything that is in his kingdom. Dominion not in a restrictive, authoritarian way. Saturn not as the, you know, overly authoritarian, punishing, jealous father. But Saturn as the kind father, the father who gives containment. Integrity. Right? That there's a possibility here of an entirely new world for you. But you have to take it. You have to accept the gift. You have to answer the trumpet call. You have to choose the star or the victory over ruin. And you may have to do it again and again. Because the universe will go on. You will continue. Contrast will reappear to inspire desire. And the choice will need to be made again and again. So that there is Venus, oh. I feel as if I can't express properly, sufficiently, clearly enough her vision, how she sees it, right? This, right? This. And it's not a static world. It's not a boring world. It's not, a world where everything is always peaceful necessarily. But it is a generative world. It is a world where people engage with things joyfully, where they are really in touch with their deepest selves. They're in touch with their natural human animal self and all of the senses that go with that. They have some really beautiful relationships. They nurture these things. They spend time with one another. They know their own values and what they find beautiful. I hope that you can feel this here now. That you can take it away, that you can believe in it, that you can make choices in these ways. I wish all of us the very, very best. And I will see you next time. So long.